Good morning, everyone. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Hope you had a happy weekend, holiday weekend, and we're glad that you're back. It's a nice short weekend, and there were all kinds of shenanigans that went on. Will libertarians now join with MAGA? We're going to talk to Alex the Lord. Many of you know him from his time as an executive producer for the Benny Johnson Show. He's going to join us here in just a moment, but don't forget to click that like button. And if today's the very first time that you're watching the Wake Up America show, we'd love to have you be a regular guest. Every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time, the Wake Up America show streams live. So make sure you click that follow before you leave today so we can see you again here bright and early tomorrow morning. All right, Donald Trump spoke to the Libertarian Party's National Convention, and he made an offer that I think many libertarians, after they saw their own candidate, wouldn't refuse. Take a listen to this.
And if you vote for me on day one, I will commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht to a sentence of time.
That was only one of the many promises that Donald Trump made over the weekend. And after we saw who the candidate was that they chose, many people are asking themselves if now's the time for libertarians to team up with the Make America Great Again Republicans. Joining us now to discuss is Mr. MAGA himself, Alex the Lord. Good morning, Alex. Thank you for joining us on the show today.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. What was your reaction to Donald Trump's speech and the offer that he made to libertarians?
I think it was a good speech, all things considered. Obviously, it's a hostile crowd, and he wasn't quite used to that. He's quite used to going to MAGA rallies with everyone supporting him. But I mean, the thing is, what irritated me the most was that he was trying to make these offers, and the crowd was just booing straight up and not listening to what he's had to say. And I mean, like things like pardoning Ross and rejecting the CBDC and protecting crypto and all of these types of things that libertarians, even some of the protesters holding the signs, free Ross, and they're like protesting Trump and being dragged out as he's making he's the one reaching out to them saying, I'm going to do these things, and they're continuing to protest. So that was my first reaction. I'm like hearing the speech and listening to the crowd's reaction. I'm like, aren't these the types of things that you guys have been calling for? And so for them not to be that like receptive, and I understand they had this sort of preconceived notion going in that, oh, Trump is an enemy to libertarians and all of that type of stuff for, people that are just like party guys. But for him to say things like, I want to put libertarians in my cabinet, like that would be massive for libertarians. So it seemed a lot like they weren't taking yes for an answer when like they've been saying, we want these things, and he's telling them yes, and they're booing. So that was kind of my takeaway.
I agree with you, Alex, and I'm glad that we see things in a similar fashion. I guess the question now lies in what Trump expects from libertarians in order for him to consider having to say, well, I live up to my end of the bargain if you live up to your end of the bargain, because there was really no chance from a timing or parliamentary procedure perspective for Donald Trump to actually be nominated and then win the Libertarian Party's nomination. RFK tried and failed miserably. There was a whole process he would have had to go through for that to happen. So I guess my question here is that if enough libertarians say, we think this Chase Oliver character, the one that won the nomination, and I'm going to go through some of his record a little bit after you're off the show this morning. If enough libertarians say, yeah, we want to team up with MAGA Republicans to fight the woke left and to make America great again, what do you think it's going to take? Do you think Donald Trump will keep his promises? What would it take for him to say, I will free Ross Ulbricht on day one, like I said, and I will put a libertarian in my cabinet position? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think he will end up freeing Ross, and he's made the announcement that he's considering pardoning Assange, I think he's going to do these things anyway, because he's had a lot of people like Vivek Ramaswamy in his ear talking about these things anyway. As far as like cabinet level positions, I think it might take a little more, movement on the side of maybe former candidates from the Libertarian Party that were seeking the nomination. And like you said, he kind of made that pitch at the end. I mean, he probably was speaking off the cuff. He didn't file the paperwork to actually become like the nominee. Plus, he is already the nominee of another party, so I'm not quite sure how that would work anyway. But I think maybe some endorsements from different party members might be a step in the right direction, and then maybe some meetings on who he would consider in his next administration and cabinet level positions. He said yesterday, or it aired yesterday on Tim's show, that he's considering as high up as the Attorney General's office to have an Attorney General that's a Libertarian. So that would be like actually huge. So I think those are some of the things. But like I said, I think he's going to consider doing a lot of these things anyway. Like he's already committed to no central bank digital currency and WHO treaty and all of those types of things. So I think right now it's on the table for Libertarians to basically vote for someone who's going to deliver and give them these things instead of, like he said, getting the 3% that they're used to max and then getting nothing in return. What is Joe Biden promising them? Absolutely nothing. He didn't show up. He didn't speak to them, and he's done no outreach to Libertarians. And as far as Chase Oliver, he's, everyone's digging up all of these old posts on X, whereas he's like cheering on the censorship of Donald Trump, who, he was banned at the behest of all of these government agencies back at Twitter 1.0 when they were colluding to censor him. So I wouldn't call that very libertarian to be, pro censorship of a former president at the behest of the FBI and all of these agencies. So just these things, I think libertarians just need to look at the two options. Number one, on face value, the two options, and then number two, who's actually going to bring results, because I don't think Chase Oliver has a shot at winning a single state.
Great analysis. And and thank you for your part in being instrumental in helping restore many of these people who were my friends back to the X/Twitter platform. My buddy, Squiggly Line Guy, Squigs, says hello and thank you for helping him to come back to the platform. Certainly, I've been a big fan of free speech and what Elon Musk has done at X.com. And I think that what's being done to the former president in terms of lawfare should be reason enough to vote for him, but that what he offered to the libertarians was a fantastic deal, considering that the alternative is not 3%, like Donald Trump was saying. The alternative is truly around 1%. He was actually being kind, because 3% was the high watermark in 2016 when I ran for president. Gary Johnson took the nomination. They got 20 in 2020. They got 1%. In many of the states. But still, those votes might be the ones that could tip him over in battleground states like Georgia and in other states where the difference might be 1%.
Exactly.
Interesting that you say, for the cabinet level position, it might be former presidential candidates. That could be someone like Bob Barr, who's now the head of the NRA. It could be Gary Johnson, or it could be me. So
never know.
If you're just tuning in to the Wake Up America show, I'm Austin Peterson. I'm glad and thankful to have you here. I'm speaking to Alex LaRusso. He's an executive producer for the Benny Johnson Show about a potential Libertarian-MAGA alliance to help reelect Donald Trump this year to fight against the woke left. So libertarians are like herding cats, Alex. But on the other side of things, MAGA Republicans love dunking on me and my libertarian buddies, calling us all kinds of names, autistic, which might be true, but it's kind of mean. Do MAGA Republicans actually want libertarians to be a part of the coalition?
I think they do for the most part. I think some of the vitriol and hostility is coming from a place of, frustration. And especially, like I said, when Trump's number one showing up there, that's enough to like say that like he's well-meaning. But like to start booing him when he like is taking the stage before you hear what the guy has to say is just like, to me, is just childlike. Like he's he's one of the biggest speakers that like, and the first nominee of another party to come speak at the convention or at any other convention, I believe. And, you know, the crowd isn't hearing him out on what he has to say. That's, I think, where things, you know, went south with people online. Um, and I mean, I guess I'm kind of guilty of this, but like, I'm not honestly speaking of libertarians themselves. I'm speaking of the people that are reacting like children. But overall, I do think there's a lot of overlap between libertarians and the MAGA coalition. And generally, like Donald Trump himself said, there's a lot of common sense with libertarians. You know, they want less government and freedom. Like these things are like American ideals, where it starts to, you know, kind of separate is sort of the stuff that Chase Oliver is saying about like, oh, we can't have the government interfering with like surgeries for minors, for like trans surgeries for minors, and then that's kind of where people diverge. It's like, well, okay, we got to have a talk on that kind of stuff. And then the other thing of just looking at the two options for president, and then deciding to vote for someone who isn't going to win states, it kind of it's just like a wake up call and say, okay, what do you guys want? You guys are screaming about I'm voting for principle, but like the guy's not going to win a state. So do you want these concrete potential changes, or do you want to just stand in your corner and cry and say, I'm voting for this, and we're going to put Joe Biden in the White House for another 4 years, and you're going to get zero of what Donald Trump is offering. So that's where I kind of think the frustration is, and I think a lot of that will go away if there's more from the libertarian side showing that they want to unite with MAGA.
I think that we're probably going to see that. There's a lot of angst after a convention, typically on behalf of the losing party. There was a faction in the Libertarian Party called the Mises Caucus who weren't able to get their candidates across the finish line. They were the more right-leaning libertarians in the party, and many of them have said, and I don't know if this is just bluster because they're upset that they lost, but many of them have said that they can't support Chase Oliver. Many of them have said that they're looking somewhere else. They won't endorse him. So there is a possibility that a significant fraction of the Libertarian Party may be openly willing to talks and may be openly willing to come on board with this strategy. I mean, I certainly, I joined the Republican Party in 2017 and have been working to try and influence my Missouri State GOP towards more liberty ideals since then, and I've had a lot of success. But you have to show up to these conventions. You have to be willing to work with Republicans, which means working with people that you may not necessarily agree with. The Libertarian Party has all of the same problems that the Republican Party does, with none of the upside, which is what I try and explain to my libertarian friends. You'll have all of the same factionalism and infighting and having to work with people you disagree with, and people saying mean things to you one day and then wanting to be your best friend the next day. But you're also going to win elections every once in a while. But what should I say? Because many of my libertarian friends, they're reaching out to me, not overtly, but many of them covertly, asking for my advice about supporting Donald Trump. What would you suggest I say to them when they say things like, will he keep his promises that he made? Will he come out and say things like due process? I like to take the guns first and due process second. And, you know, he's had a few things that even conservatives, you know, should blow our hair back and make us concerned. What should I say to them to sort of allay their fears going into the fall election of why libertarians should vote for Donald Trump?
Yeah, I think some things that you should say is to look at what Donald Trump did in 2000. He was a Reform Party candidate. And then, you know, obviously he didn't end up accepting the nomination for the Reform Party. But then when he decided to run for president again, he sort of took the Reform Party's platform and what his views were back then and kind of infiltrated the Republican Party himself, or the GOPE at the time. And if you remember in 2016, the entire Republican Party, right down to the GOP convention, was against him and tried to, you know, contest the convention. Like at the time, I don't think Ted Cruz like spoke at the convention and didn't even say vote Trump. He picked a VP before he or after the fact that he didn't even have the math to win. So the way Donald Trump put his policies and his vision into the Republican Party and really transform the party was from the outside in. He went and became the nominee against all odds. So he became, immigration really took the forefront of the Republican, party platform in 2016. And then also the Republican Party became the anti-war party. And that's thanks to Donald Trump, I think. So I think that could be sort of a model for libertarians who want to change the Republican Party is not, I shouldn't really use the word infiltrate, but like have the, positive impact, have a meeting with Donald Trump. You could publicly say, I am a libertarian, ex presidential candidate or party official or whatever. And this is a group of people that are willing to meet with Donald Trump to ensure that he's going to keep his promises and, sit down and talk with the guy and take him up on the offers that he's had. I think something like that would be pretty huge in a next step that, could be against Oliver. If there is a contingent of people in the Libertarian Party that want to move forward with something like that and have a concrete step and, maybe have some ideas for Trump for potential cabinet officials in the next administration. Just being open to the meeting in general and then, talking it out with the guy. So I think those are some suggestions.
I think that's a great suggestion, Alex, and I'm hoping that I can convince enough of my friends in the Libertarian Party and Libertarian movement in general to get on board with that strategy because time is ticking and we've got to beat Joe Biden this fall. The November elections are coming, and we have a lot of work to do between now and then. How are you feeling about the potential for Donald Trump to beat Joe Biden in November?
I think as you say, time is ticking, but also it is a long way to the actual election. There's a lot that can happen. Obviously, last election we had a pandemic that threw everything off, and there were some irregularities during the election. So like right now, polling looks good, and I think even people that considered themselves Democrats or younger voters or minorities are ticking away from Joe Biden and leaning more towards Trump. And obviously, Biden is suffering with a lot of these younger people because of the, Israel-Palestine conflict. So I think a lot of the momentum is going in Trump's direction. But like I said, it's a longer way to the election and a lot can happen before then. We have, the criminal trials. We're expecting a verdict in the first one this week. That's probably going to be the only one that goes to trial, honestly. But like, all of these factors will weigh on people's decisions coming up. But as of now, I think he has a very good shot at winning back the White House this time.
Last question, because I know we've only got you for a couple more minutes, Alex. Is RFK a factor at all in this race, would you say? Because initially it seemed like he would take more from Biden. Now it seems like he's taking a little bit from both sides. What's your thought on the RFK question?
I don't think he's going to be a major factor. A lot of that might have to do with if he gets on a debate stage. A lot of the thing, like exactly like the rubber chicken type thing, trying to go at Trump for not debating. I don't even think that Trump said he wouldn't debate him. But the thing is, it's like Biden's the one who had all of these conditions for the debate and had the condition to have no RFK and no crowd and all of these things. And it's CNN's debate. Donald Trump simply said yes. If Donald Trump said, I don't want to debate because RFK is on the stage, Joe Biden would say he was making excuses and he's a chicken. Trump has been saying for months that he wants to debate Joe Biden. So for RFK to kind of like turn the tables on Trump and say he's a chicken for not wanting to debate I don't know. It seemed like RFK had a stronger candidacy, and right now he's kind of grasping at straws. Like you said, he made the last ditch effort to become the Libertarian nominee as well. So I think his campaign is kind of waning at this point, and it might be an attractive option for some, but I think at the end of the day, people are going to have the same analysis like they do with even in the libertarian side of things, where they're going to look at results. They're going to say, I don't think RFK can win a state, and I think that Donald Trump is a lot better than Joe Biden. And so I'm actually going to vote for Donald Trump and vote for someone who has the opportunity to make actual change. So that's what I think on the RFK thing.
Alex, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners or maybe plug before we let you go today?
Just my X profile at ALX.
There it is. Alex LaRusso, MAGA Libertarian Alliance. Thank you very much for being so generous with your time this morning,
Of
Alex,
course.
and good luck out there. We'll see you out on the campaign trail.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's give Alex a round of applause. What did you guys think? You can text the show at 573-319-1586. The text lines for the Wake Up America show are always open. And for those of you who know how this thing works, I respond to text messages even in the evenings because the audio version of the Wake Up America show gets cut and uploaded after the show is over. So sometimes people are listening to the audio version later on iTunes or on Spotify because they can't tune in to the live stream in the mornings. And then they'll send me a text message on what they thought about the show later that day, or maybe with a question or a guest suggestion. You can see the show's number down there at the bottom of this screen in the bottom right-hand corner. That number, again, for those who are just listening to the show, 573-319-1586. If you're enjoying that content that you're watching this morning, click the like button and follow the Wake Up America show. The follow button there will subscribe you to the show so that you can join us for the regular schedule, which is every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Regulars who watch the Wake Up America show know that we typically have a bonus content program that we've been running for the last 2 months. However, because of the breaking news and the hot breaking news, there's just no chance that I was going to be able to squeeze in a mini documentary today. So now don't be too disappointed. We will restore it back tomorrow, but we've got so many guests and so much content today, so many things to talk about, that I just wanted to try and focus on the news today. So there's no bonus content program, but we would appreciate your Rumble Rant donations if you're enjoying the content that you're seeing today and you want to help support us so that you can see more of what you're seeing this morning. Make sure you get those Rumble Rants in or become a monthly subscriber as well. The Wake Up America show is brought to you in part by our friends over at Preserve Gold. If you text the word Liberty to 50505, they'll send you a free gold and silver information packet if you've been considering how to secure your financial future. If the central bank digital currencies ever do come, then you'll have gold and silver in your portfolio to keep yourself safe from the Federal Reserve's inflationary policies. Text the word Liberty to 50505 to help protect your portfolio against future inflationary crises like we've seen in the past. Again, that number that you can text the word Liberty to is 50505. Text the word Liberty to 50505, and we'd be very grateful. All right, so it's going to be a great show today, guys. Starting strong. Who would you like to see in Donald Trump's cabinet? And ask yourself this, who's really qualified to fill a position like that? It's interesting when you see the responses from people online. They'll say, oh, well, they should have this libertarian be on the cabinet level position or have this libertarian be on the cabinet level position. But I think one of the great weaknesses of libertarians, of which there are many, but one of the greatest weaknesses is that we don't really have the strongest bench of people who could be appointed to roles like judges, cabinet level positions. I mean, what experience do people have that they can use to say, okay, well, I'm actually qualified for a cabinet level position, something like that? Those are the kinds of jobs where you really need to have displayed some level of competence before they're going to put you in a role like that. So that is a real Achilles heel that libertarians have to face up to, is the talent, the lack of sincere talent that we could bring to bear. I mean, Trump isn't going to just nominate someone to a cabinet level position that just happens to be a popular libertarian. I mean, at least I hope he wouldn't, because the fact is that we want somebody who, if they're going to be a Secretary of State, can actually conduct international diplomacy. I mean, telling everybody to screw off is great and it's fun, and that's certainly in Trump's wheelhouse to a large extent. But you do want somebody who's going to be the head of the Secretary of Defense to at least be able to have some kind of military competency or military knowledge, right? Who would that be? So I guess I put that question to you. Who do you think is actually competent enough, has the credibility that could get past confirmation hearings, and could pass a confirmation hearing from the U.S. Senate. Remember, these cabinet level positions, they have to undergo a whole rigmarole of confirmation hearings before they can take those positions. Do you think that there are libertarians that you know that could actually withstand that level of scrutiny? I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that. And you can either text it to 573-319-1586 and let me know your thoughts on such. Tell me, who do you think is actually credible enough and could pass a confirmation hearing to take a cabinet level position? I would be very curious to hear your thoughts on this one. Will Run Riot joining us live over at rumble.com. Good. We just bought some coffee this morning from the AP for Liberty shop. Thank you. Appreciate that, Will. For those of you who aren't aware, oh, look at that brand new product over there at apforlibertyshop.com. How handy. Look at that. Libertarians for Trump 2024 merch just dropped. I know some of you are like, no, God, just embrace it. God, please, no. Now, as you can see here, I have my Make America Great Again hat here on the chicken. And I have made my promise that if Vivek Ramaswamy becomes the vice presidential candidate for Donald Trump, that I will wear the Make America Great Again hat. I haven't worn the MAGA hat yet. Yes, I put it on for the thumbnail in the photo, but that's just what it is. Okay, so lay off me. But check out apforlibertyshop.com, where Will just bought some delicious Founding Flavors coffee, and get your Libertarians for Trump merch over at apforlibertyshop.com. Check out the little Donald Trump hairdo on the Gadsden. Excuse me, I'm going to die. Libertarians for Trump shirts. We've also got mugs. Our 4th of July collection is selling like hotcakes. Don't tread on me, snake earrings. The AP for Liberty shop website is just a bazaar of BAZAAR as well as BIZARRE of awesome freedom-loving merch. So check out apforlibertyshop.com. Get you some Libertarian for Trump gear. Are you in? Are you in? Are you out? Are you out? Love to hear your thoughts on that. All right. So who is the Libertarian presidential candidate? I actually sat down for an interview with Chase Oliver about a year ago when he first announced he was running for president. And the interview that I did with him, about 98 seconds of it went viral. Michael Knowles of the Daily Wire yesterday posted this, and it got about 1 million views of my interview. This is 98 seconds of my interview with the Libertarian Party's actual nominee, who Michael Knowles says I destroyed in 98 seconds. So let's take a listen. Why do you think that the drag queens want to read to children?
Because I think that they are performance artists, and they want to be able to have different levels of performance art. It's the same reason as why do the Wiggles sing to children? Because they want to have a marketplace to kids.
Chase,
they want to be able to. They want to be
the
able
Wiggles,
to.
The Wiggles is made for children. It's obviously family friendly material. Drag queens are not what you call family friendly kind of entertainment.
Okay, but a man in a dress is what drag is, right? Let's just be real. A man in a dress or a woman in a suit is what drag is. Mm-hmm. That is not inherently sexual. There is inherently sexual drag. And you're not going to convince me. I mean, I'm not going to defend otherwise. There absolutely is. But there's also the ability to perform as a man in a wig without being sexual. And that is what this is. And I guarantee you, if you act like I said, I went for myself because I was like, why are there people protesting this thing? I want to see what this drag queen story time is myself, and I want to see what it is. And nothing sexual was going on. And I think that is the truth for 99% of this. And I think
would you take your kids to a drag queen story hour? Or would you drop them off at a drag queen story hour?
I don't think that's what happens. Most of the time, the parents are right there with the kids. But
I'm asking you, would you drop your kids off at a drag queen story hour and come back an hour later?
Would you drop your kids off at a movie? Yeah.
So yeah, he would. Yeah, I had a problem with Chase Oliver when I did this interview, and I sat down for a more extended interview. If you think that that's cringe, it only gets worse. Chase, I'd like to ask you one brief question back to real quick before we get to the full interview that I did with Chase Oliver. Michael Malice, noted anarchist, reposted that 98-second clip and said, "This is like saying a man in a swimsuit isn't inherently sexual, so therefore Chippendale's Story Hour is just a reading experience." See, this is where people, they try and if he had just been honest and said that he thought that it was disgusting and wrong, but he didn't think that the government should prevent something like that, that I would have understood. But it seems as if Chase Oliver is actually being actively dishonest about the intentions of the people who want to dress up and perform their sexual fetishes in front of children. His dishonesty is the most concerning part of this. Go back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of wokeism. My friend Camilia Peterson over in the live stream says, asking the question, hey, Camilia, we're going to hear from Camilia, by the way, at 8 a.m. So you don't want to miss that. Right now, I'm playing a clip of an interview that I did with Chase Oliver nearly a year ago, 10 months ago, with Chase Oliver. Who would have thought that this would have come in so handy, where I was talking to him about gender affirming care, aka Trans the Kids, and Drag Queen Story Hours. Chase Oliver is a gay man himself, and a libertarian from Georgia who managed to force a runoff in Georgia, which led to the election of Raphael Warnock. But let's hear his views directly about the pride parades having highly specialized behavior and public nudity. Is that something you're okay with?
So, first off, there's a lot of different kinds of pride parades out there. There are certainly ones that don't have any of that stuff. I've been to several that are what you would say is completely family friendly. But in terms of, public nudity, not really my flavor. But again, I don't think it's necessarily like trying to coerce people into having sex with people. It's more about body freedom and self-expression. Not something I'm really into. Like, I like to keep my clothes on when I'm in public most of the time.
Right. You're not into it, Chase, but should it be legal to be nude, to be naked in front of children?
I mean, it happens at every Mardi Gras, but no, I don't really.
See, now that is red flag. Red flag, red flag, red flag.
Does that make it okay? Kids with nudity, but I think that ultimately a lot of states and cities have public indecency laws that basically say you can be nude so long as you're not trying to be sexually suggestive. And there's been naked bike rides that have happened over the last 50 years. It's not, and the main thing I want to say is this is not just gay pride parades. That's the biggest thing that I have a problem with, is that people are like, oh, gay pride parades are where there's public nudity. There's public nudity in a lot of places.
Right, but it just feels like it's trying to deflect. But Chase, it just feels like it's trying to deflect from the issue. And I mean, this is like one of the major things that Americans are talking about right now. And I know that, you'd like to see a culture war ceasefire, but war is war. And it's kind of like, there's an old statement, I think it was a Mark Twain quote, is that, people who get themselves involved in altercations between two people who are in a fight will often find their own noses bloodied. So at the end of the day, how do you get involved in a conflict like Russia or Ukraine, for example, without getting ourselves, bloodied and battered? How do we call an end to that war, right? Is it not the job of the president of the United States to try and mediate some kind of a ceasefire between those two powers at war right now?
Well, yeah. So back to the issue that you were mentioning, here's the thing. Pride parades have been happening for a long time. Public nudity has been happening for a long time. If you go to Europe,
as if that makes it okay. I don't understand why this guy is pushing so hard to keep it legal for people to be naked in public in front of children. It just strikes me as odd. I mean,
how dare you?
Honestly, strikes me as disgusting. This is somebody who has no problem with the sexual lives, proclivities of adults. But we're talking about children here. And while I tried to change the subject to give him a little bit of a breathing room so he could talk about something else, he had to go back to that issue so that he could push hard to defend people being naked in front of children in public. Red flag, red flag, no, red flag. Something's wrong.
Near to any beach, you're going to see sunbathers who are nude. It's not about nudity. It's about sexuality.
Europe.
If you're trying to push your sexuality,
just because people are always like, well, Europe does it, that doesn't make it
Onto
okay.
kids via nudity, via that is wrong, and I would oppose it. And I don't think it really belongs in a pride parade, mostly because there is a family-friendly audience. But I don't set those rules. So but I don't think it's probably the most helpful thing to be doing there. But at the same time, I also am somebody who's not going to be puritanical about nudity, because like I said, I've understood that if you travel outside of the country and you go to a beach, you're going to see people topless or sunbathing nude, and there's no problem with that. I've just got back from Pork Fest. There were
no, but they don't allow our children on the nude beaches.
naked people all over the place there. A giant libertarian festival. Nobody was trying to push that onto kids.
There were kids there. There were kids there around the nudity.
I mean, I wasn't really paying attention to the nudity, but there were naked people there. Yeah. And there were also families there. And I don't know, there's the ability for naked people to exist in the world without it being merely about sex. Like I said, sunbathing is the biggest example.
Are you trying? See, that's the thing, is that it would be one thing if he was honest about the fact that the people who are being nude at pride parades is inherently sexual, because it's all about their sexuality. The whole parade is about sexuality. And then someone is nude there, and you're trying to convince me, Chase, that the nude people at the sexual pride fest is not about sexuality. It's the same as people on the beach. It's not the same. Boo this man. Boo this man. Boo this man. This is the Libertarian Party's presidential candidate that they selected after 7 rounds of balloting last weekend at the Libertarians National Convention, where Donald Trump spoke. We're going to play some of Donald Trump's comments here in just a moment, but I want to continue to give Chase, as you can see, as I did in this interview, enough rope and see what he does with it.
But no, I don't support that at a pride parade, because I don't think it's helpful to the message. Ultimately, pride is about commemorating Stonewall, which is an anti-police action. It's about people standing up and fighting back for their self-expression. And I can see where some people think that might belong there, but I ultimately want it to belong in the realm of people being able to be themselves in self-expression without maybe harming other people. And I can see where parents have a problem with it. So I would not advise that people do that.
No, for sure, Chase. And forgive me if it seems like I'm pressing you on this issue, but I promise you that it will be a main issue if you do become the Libertarian presidential candidate. Who called it? AP called it. I'll tell you, I don't get enough respect in the world, I feel like. But for the 1,000 people who are watching us live over at rumble.com this morning, good morning. Welcome to the show. Happy and thankful to have you here. You're in the right place if you love freedom. Make sure that, and you think that drag queen story hours and all that other stuff is weird, and you don't want to have it around your kids. Definitely click that like button if you haven't already. And of course, the follow button as well. We'd love to have you become a regular guest of the Wake Up America show. Well, when is the show? Well, it's Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. We'd love to have you join us here for the show on the regs. You can listen to the audio version of the show as well. We do upload the podcast on all of the major podcasting services. So if you listen to podcasts on Spotify or iTunes, you can find us there. So go download us, the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson, on any of your favorite mobile devices that you use to listen to your podcasts. I'm playing clips from an interview that I did with the Libertarian Party's presidential candidate that they just selected, Chase Oliver. This was in the backdrop of a weekend where Donald Trump came to speak to the convention, made a bunch of promises to the Libertarians that if they vote for him, that he would get Ross Ulbricht freed, that he also spoke to Tim Pool and said that he would consider pardoning Julian Assange, and he also said that he would consider putting a libertarian as a cabinet-level position in his administration, contingent upon their support for him in the Libertarian Party. So the question is, will Libertarians take him up on his offer? Well, if you had to choose between Donald Trump and this candidate, Chase Oliver, which one would you rather vote for? Because if you read the news, it is a story every single day. I mean, the biggest movie in the world right now is The Sound of Freedom. And these are things that you're going to need to have, good answers to. So that's why I asked you.
Child sex trafficking is not pride parades. That's a different thing entirely.
Well,
No, that's a different thing entirely.
Yeah, but when you see pride parades and you hear them say, "We're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children," and you see these highly sexualized drag shows that are inviting children to come in, and you see the LGBTQ community advocating for things like bringing children into drag queen story hour, and you see the pictures of them with their nutsacks hanging out the side of their women's underwear that they're wearing at these are at least tangentially related issues. You can tell that Chase does not like the way that I'm talking there, that the protection of children is something that always deeply troubled me with libertarians. Remember, I'm the guy who got booed for suggesting that you shouldn't be able to sell heroin to 5-year-olds. I know. I'm such a horrible, tyrannical statist. But at the end of the day, people were asking me, Austin, well, were they booing you because they wanted to sell heroin to 5-year-olds, or were they booing you because they didn't want to create a tyrannical enforcement method of a state and continue a war on drugs, et cetera, et cetera? Why not both? Both is true. Some of them do want to grape children, and that's a fact, because I know that Brad Spangler, for example, a name that you have no idea who he is, who was a member of the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance, who was part of the radio program. He was a big, outspoken libertarian anarchist in New Hampshire, is now spending time in federal jail for, guess what? Child abuse. And it was his own daughter, his own children. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember that situation. Brad Spangler, look him up. Yes, some of them do want to commit acts of child abuse. That's why I think it's so important that we have a government that protects children from anarchists.
So I've actually been to a drag queen story hour. I went to Rome Pride last year in Rome, Georgia, in Marjorie Taylor Greene's district. She was protesting the Pride because they were having a drag queen story hour. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go see what this is all really about and see how dangerous this might be to kids. And what I saw was somebody who's in a dress, basically a la Mrs. Doubtfire. They're about as clothed as Mrs. Doubtfire, reading a story to kids about how you can be yourself and how everybody can grow to be their own butterfly.
I always bring up Mrs. Doubtfire, but Mrs. Doubtfire, he was not dressing up like that as a fetish. That's not the same thing. They want to try and compare that. The people who are trying to make excuses for this kind of behavior will then, once they move that Overton window to justify that behavior, they will move the window to justify the other. But that's how we've gotten to where we're at right now, where instead of calling pedos, they want us to call them MAPs. Instead of pedophiles, they want us to call them minor attracted persons, right? This is how they move the Overton window. Oh, it's just like Mrs. Doubtfire. I'm sorry. It's not like Mrs. Doubtfire. Actually, I'm not sorry. It's not at all like Mrs. Doubtfire.
And then the most offensive part was they sang a lovely, rousing round of Baby Shark. That is not dangerous. Sex trafficking is dangerous. People who really want to harm children are dangerous. The most common people who are going to abuse your kids are family members, close people associated to your family, and people in authority. If you don't hang around drag queens, you don't have to worry about drag queens. I don't think
so. Drag queens, so drag shows that allow underage people, that's okay.
Depends on the drag show. Let's talk about.
Yeah. I'm a Republican. I'm voting for Donald Trump. I'm a libertarian who is a Republican, and I'm voting for Donald Trump. I can't vote for that. I can't do that. I'm about to have my first child here. My daughter is going to be born. You think I'm going to expose her to that kind of stuff? You think she's going to get to, I don't care what, it wouldn't matter if her mother said they were going to do it. Her father, my job is to protect my daughter from this licentiousness, this degeneracy. And I believe that adults, fully informed, consenting adults, can go to any drag show they want, go to any Mardi Gras they want. For God's sakes, and I know this is where I'm going to lose all the Republicans now, I believe that adults should be allowed to buy recreational cocaine if they so desire, because it's their American right to make terrible decisions for their own health, provided they harm no one else. All right? And guess what? Adults are adults and children are children. And what Chase Oliver is advocating for is a crime. He's saying he is making arguments for that will lead to the legalization of child abuse in this country, and I'm not voting for that.
Drag itself is an art form that has multiple
It is an inherently sexual art form that is meant for men who like to dress up as women to display their sexual fetishes in front of other people. And as a libertarian Republican, I'm not a social conservative, which means that things that adults do in their own time in private doesn't offend me. I've been to plenty of drag shows in my life, and I'll tell you, every single one of them was inherently sexual.
Different
And most of my gay Republican friends will agree.
levels. You can be completely sanitized and clean, and you can be completely adult only. It's
Chase,
just
have
like
you
the
ever been
movies.
to a sanitized and clean drag show in your life? Because let me tell
I
you,
was just at one. I just described one
okay,
at Rome.
damn, I'm a good
Come on.
I've been to dozens, okay, dozens, okay? I'm not a social conservative. I have never been to a drag show that was not highly sexualized. Dozens of drag shows in my
And I
life.
guarantee you, every one of those was at a bar, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're doing it at a pride parade as a story time, you're not doing that. There's a difference between G-rated movies and R-rated movies, you know, and we trust that parents, not the government, parents can decide the level of acceptability for their kids. That you can decide as a parent whether your kid can go into an R-rated movie and see gross violence or gross sexuality on a movie screen. But if you want to take your kid to go see somebody read a story that's somehow controversial and deserving of scorn or disrespect,
Why do you
I
think
believe that
why do you think
parents
that the
should be able
drag
to make
queens
those
why do you
decisions.
think that the drag queens want to read to children?
Because I think that
Here's
they
the key
are
part.
performance artists and they want to be able to have different levels of performance art. It's the same reason as why do the Wiggles sing to children? Because they want to have a marketplace to kids.
Chase,
They want to be able to. They want to be
the
able
Wiggles
to.
is made for children. It's obviously family friendly material. Drag queens are not what you call family friendly kind of entertainment.
Okay, but a man in a dress is what drag is, right? I mean, let's just be real. A man in a dress or a woman in a suit is what drag is. That is not inherently sexual. There is inherently sexual drag, and you're not going to convince me. I mean, I'm not going to defend otherwise. There absolutely is, but there's also the ability to perform as a man in a wig without being sexual, and that is what this is. And I guarantee you, if you act like I said, I went for myself because I was like, why are there people protesting this thing? I want to see what this drag queen story time is myself,
Bullshit. You wanted to confirm your biases, Chase.
and I want to see what it is. And nothing sexual was going on. And I think that
Oh, there wasn't anything sexual going on when I had my blinders on and was looking at one example and one incident. Never mind all of the dozens of documented incidents that we can see online where it has happened, where it does happen, where you can see, and I don't want to describe it because this is already PG-13 to R-rated enough this morning. I'm sorry. I try and keep my show as PG as possible, but this is not a PG topic, unfortunately. But it's a presidential race topic now, and we're discussing it. And we're going to have to talk about it. And if we don't talk about it, then it goes underground. And we need to shine a light on these things, and so that we can sort of extirpate the blackness from our society and this cultural degeneracy. So I'm shining a light on it now. It's not something I like to talk about, but it has to be done. And I did this interview with Chase Oliver last year, not knowing how relevant this would all become, but apparently I heard Mark Dice had cut my clip now and is playing it, and some other broadcasters this morning are playing this clip to talk about the Libertarian Party's presidential candidate and how he stands on the gender
that
wing.
is the truth for 99% of this. And I think
would you take your kids to a drag queen story hour? Or would you drop them off at a drag queen story hour and
I don't think that's what happens. Most of the time the parents are right there with the kids, but
I'm asking you, would you drop your kids off at a drag queen story hour and come back an hour later?
I mean, would you drop your kids off at a movie? Yeah. I think
No. No, I don't think he would. And that's the thing. It's not comparable at all. He's being dishonest. He's comparing apples and oranges because he's trying to normalize something that is not normal. All right, this is a problem. You can criticize Donald Trump all day long for many of the positions that he holds as a libertarian. I certainly do. I don't agree with him on issues of international trade. I think that his bump stock ban was wrongheaded. I think the way that he handled Operation Warp Speed was incredibly galling, and and he I could list a laundry list of things a mile long that I disagree with Donald Trump on. But this is the issue of today. Will we protect our children from abuse, from predators, from leftists who want to indoctrinate them and groom them, and from left libertarians like Chase Oliver who want to not only allow it, but normalize it to an extent? These are the questions that are the pressing questions of today.
I think if there's nothing inherently sexual going on, yeah, I'm not worried about that stuff. I'm more worried about the fact that there are coaches out there, priests out there, scout leaders out there. Those are the people who are
coaches, priests, and scout leaders. Oh, okay, so there it is. So we're trying to divert, but it's still, Chase, you're not. You're just, what are the priests? The priests are still gay priests, right? Like they're still gay pedophiles. Okay, it's what culture are you trying to protect here? Well, okay. Well, yes. Well, because some gay priests were pedophiles, or some coaches, or some Boy Scouts. Yes, we know, Chase. We know that the problem, where the problem is, and what's going on here in these communities. I don't understand why you're trying to divert to that. It's very odd, that diversion right there. And again, it's a red flag. It's a red flag.
Actually abusing kids, and
let me ask you something, because my wife and I, Stephanie, we talked about this. We've had these conversations. I like deep conversation. We're going to have this with Camilia here in 5 minutes. She's going to join us. When he's like, okay, you take your kid to the drag show. Would you take your kid to the drag show? Would you drop them off at the drag show? Would you leave them? Would you leave them there unattended and come back? You know, maybe you would leave them unattended to go watch a movie, and then you come back and pick them up 2 hours later, right? But it's not the same thing. It's apples and oranges, right? That's what Chase was trying to compare it to. But here's the thing. It's kind of like a snake out in the forest. Okay. You see the snake, and it's got, red spots, and it's got yellow swirls, red and yellow swirls. And some of the snakes that have red and yellow swirls, perfectly safe. Some of the snakes that have red and yellow swirls, they're not dangerous at all in any way, shape, or form. Some of them are quite dangerous and have venom and can kill you. Would you go and you pick up a red and yellow snake? Would you go pick one up and just take the chance that there's going to be that incident that could occur, take the chance that you'll be poisoned by the snake? Or do you avoid the snake out of an abundance of caution? I think I know how most parents who are parents of children would answer it. And obviously, Chase is a homosexual, so he doesn't have children, or if he does, then they obviously were adopted, right, or surrogates. But at the end of the day, you don't take your kid to a situation where they might be harmed or molested, and then with the chance that, some of them are not going to do it, right? Not after you hear, we're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children. Not after all the incidents that we've seen where children have been accused, where they have taken children and put them up onto stage and had them performing inherently. I hate this topic. I really do. I wish we didn't have to talk about it. But
they're not in the news every week the way gay pride parades are. That's the real problem, is that.
And Pride Month is coming up too. It's going to be interesting to see how the Libertarian Party and Chase Oliver handles this. I guarantee it's going to be a poof show.
Yeah, I'm sure there are drag queens out there who have abused kids, because every subset of humanity, there's some monster out there. But I think the focus solely on drag queens, when it's far more likely that your kid's going to be molested by a teacher or a priest or a scout or a coach, that's the real problem there.
Far more likely? Why? You're just saying far more likely. But what about per capita, Chase? Far more likely. Are you saying far more likely? Because there's more coaches, there's more priests than there are drag queens, right? But if a smaller percentage of the population commits a majority of the crimes. Let's hear from Camilia Peterson about that one. I'm going to take a very brief little break. I'm going to go get Camilia. Don't go away. We're going to talk to her about this and her take. Is she a libertarian for Trump? She'll answer that question when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
expanse of time, a year might seem like a mere moment, but oh, what a year it's been. In September 2022, Austin and Stephanie Peterson embarked on a journey to wake up America. They began humbly, with just 20 souls tuning in, learning, listening, and though challenges arose, like the looming shadow of YouTube demonetization, their spirit never waned. And now, thanks to you, thousands rise with the sun to join them, to listen, to engage, to be a part of a community. So here's to you, and to wake up America, for memories shared, for friends made, for the journey ahead, and for never, ever forgetting to rise and freedom. Happy anniversary.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Is the outdoor your home about as exciting as a library? Then spice it up and unbore your space with our custom metal signs. Crafted with love and a bit of libertarian magic, you can customize your own metal sign at ap4libertyshop.com. So head to ap4libertyshop.com, customize your own metal sign today. Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. Thanks so much for sticking around. And thank you to rumble.com for featuring us on the front page today. I love it whenever we get to meet thousands of new friends. We're friends, right? So click that like button. And if it is your first time here watching the Wake Up America show, I think you're going to love the content. Typically, it's a lot less kind of icky, nasty. But we still have lots of fun. Great regular guests, great big name guests that come on the show. Make it a part of your daily routine. Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time is the show's schedule. And I'm Austin Peterson, the host of the show, a freedom-loving libertarian Republican for Trump. And I think my next guest might fit that definition as well. We'll have to send her a Make America Great Again hat. Joining us now live is our good friend and regular guest, Camilia Peterson. Good morning, CJ. Nice to see you again.
Good morning. Interesting times we live in.
Certainly is, Camilia. I mean, you consider we're very much in the same vein. Freedom-loving, libertarian Republicans. We're both from the state of Missouri. We're both active in our communities and in the political scene, trying to advance an agenda of limited government. And now we find ourselves in a situation where, after Donald Trump spoke to the Libertarian National Convention, and after the Libertarians chose a woke candidate in Chase Oliver for their candidate, we have the choice of voting for Donald Trump, freeing Ross Ulbricht, having a libertarian in the cabinet level position, having the White House door open, possibly even pardoning Julian Assange, tax cuts, lower gas prices, having respect around the world again. Or we can vote for, well, Donald Trump called it 3%, but it's more like 1%. Should we vote for the 1% woke libertarian candidate, or should we vote for Donald Trump, Camilia?
Yeah, I don't think, voting for the libertarian candidate is going to work this time. Even if you are a libertarian who would rather not vote at all, if you're a NOTA libertarian versus, picking the least, bad option or whatever, I don't think the libertarian candidate is the least bad option this time. And there's lots of good reasons that you've covered for that. So what we're down to is, I think the concern that a lot of us have had all along was whether or not Trump could beat Biden in the general election, right? That's why in the primary, people were, I think, all over the place in a lot of ways as far as who to support. Because there are a lot of people have felt like that we need to turn the page on Trump. Is the left going to let him be effective at all, even if he wins, when he gets into office? Lots of unknowns and lots of drama. And I think people are kind of tired of that, but obviously not tired enough of it, because we have Biden and we have Trump as our Democrat and Republican nominees. And so the question is there an alternative? The alternatives right now are RFK Jr. and now the Libertarian candidate. And so I think, though, that, what it really does come down to in the general election is if you want Biden back in office or not. And that is just untenable. It's unacceptable. We cannot continue. We can't continue in this vein. I just saw, a video this morning that popped up that was being shared by might have been Wall Street Silver. And it's another one of those, crying in my car videos. But I feel this one. Like, I can understand why people are desperate enough to record doing this sort of thing. Because she said, what sucks? She said, working full time and not being able to afford groceries. I can't afford groceries. I can't even afford gas to get to work. I don't know what to do anymore. I don't want to live like this anymore. And I'm here to tell you, I went to the grocery store yesterday and it sucks. Like, the prices are, they're higher on things that every time I walk in. And it just, we've got to have a change. And the best chance of that is Donald Trump.
Now, Camilia, I know you're famous for having low-level Trump derangement syndrome. And for some people, it's a full-blown infection. It's basically rabies. They're foaming at the mouth. You have what I would consider to be a low-grade infection. If we were to run your temperature, you'd be at about 99 or 100. So definitely ill. Need to stay home. Right? Don't be around other people because you might infect them. I have your kryptonite here, or maybe it's the cure, the Make America Great Again
Lord.
hat. Let me just I haven't put it on yet officially, because I have said that if he does put Vivek Ramaswamy as vice president, then I will wear the Make America Great Again hat and officially join MAGA forces. Would that be enough for you? Would that be the cure that you need? If Vivek Ramaswamy is the vice presidential candidate with Donald Trump, would you be cured of the disease?
I want to believe, right? I want to believe. Help my unbelief. But so yes, if he actually takes steps, concrete steps to follow through on some of the things that he has talked about, and does something like putting Vivek Ramaswamy in the cabinet, or, let's look at who he makes his VP. I think that is huge. We have got to see who he makes his vice president, because that's going to be very telling. And I know it, and it also has to be a very strategic decision for him, because he really does need to pull some votes from the middle. So yeah, if he actually took concrete steps to follow through on some of these things that he's been saying, I would be much more likely to be all in.
Why could you not vote for Chase Oliver, the Libertarian candidate?
Oh, like everything that everything that you've been playing. I am I've been called all kinds of names in the book. If you look at my Twitter, header picture, I've been called everything from an extremist to a right-wing nut to a leftist, you name it. I have called, because I don't fit into anybody's neat little box. And I think that's what makes me libertarian, small L libertarian. And I have lines, when we talk about, you do not violate the non-aggression principle. Transing kids, giving them hormone blockers, that violates the NAP in a huge way. I don't care what you say, it's on eyesight, it's on his eyesight with site. There's lots of misinformation, by the way, about Chase Oliver that's being put out there that are misrepresenting his positions on things. This position is not misrepresented, though, and it's right there for everyone to see. And he says that he's not necessarily okay with the surgeries, but he is okay with hormone blockers and hormone therapy. And I don't know if he just hasn't done his research, or he's not seen the horrific stories that come out of the transgender movement with children. You don't just undo the effects of those hormone blockers and giving a child, different hormones that their body is not equipped to deal with, that you don't undo that. Like, those changes become permanent very quickly. And if that child decides to change their mind 2 years down the road, I'm sorry, it's too late.
Yes, I have Chase Oliver. I'm pulling up his responses so that the people who are watching the show right now can see this. These are personally submitted answers to these questions. This is not someone else answering for him or his campaign filling out a form. This is Chase Oliver's policy on gender transition. Should people under the age of 18 years old be able to receive gender transition treatments? Yes, but only for non-surgical treatments such as puberty blockers and hormone therapy. You would think that he would understand that hormone blockers and hormone therapy is just as permanent often as a surgery is, Camilia, but he either doesn't understand it or, more likely, and this is what I would guess because of the way that he answered the questions, Camilia, when I asked him about all of these things, he would always compare apples and oranges. I think he's lying.
Yeah, I don't know. Our friend Sarah Higdon, has been talking about this, because when we did that Spaces the other night, she was on there and said that she knows Chase, quite well, but also said that they have been on opposite sides of the fence from a legislative.
Higdon, we have a lot of people tuning in who don't know who Sarah Higdon is. Sarah Higdon is a transsexual herself. She has undergone the surgery.
Yes.
And she disagrees with Chase on this issue.
Absolutely. She's one of the most balanced people I know on this issue, who is actually, who knows what she's talking about, right? She's been there and she's literally done that. But she does not promote it for children at all. And she has been talking about how, she comes to his defense a little bit, in terms of, she feels like he's a good person and he's a good friend, and that he does have a lot of good stances that are being misconstrued, but she said they are not being construed on this issue, and that he has been on the opposite side of the fence from her when it comes to pushing specific legislation at the state level. And so I think that is important to note. And, it was interesting to me because this is a tough topic, for people who are struggling, with their gender identity. It's not something that we need to mock people for, but it is something that we need to have better ways of addressing it and treating it. There are deeper root issues. But you asked Sarah one time if, she thought she would ever regret, her decision to make those changes. And I thought she was really transparent in saying that, she didn't think so, but no guarantees, right? That risk comes with that. But she made that decision as an adult. And, there are things that we do not allow for children. When you're playing the stuff about the drag queen shows, like, heavens to Betsy, saying a drag queen show is not overtly sexual because it's in a pride parade. I'm sorry, but we had pictures from here in Springfield, Missouri, because that's been a big deal around here, for the last few years, where the drag queens they are sexually dressed in a sexual manner. And on top of that, they are having children put dollar bills in their clothes, in their underwear. And I'm like, there is only one place where you put dollar bills in someone's clothes. This is not appropriate. And that's why, no matter what they say about, Mrs. Doubtfire and anything else, that's why we have such a strong visceral reaction to it. And you cannot say that it's anything else than what it is. And because we see it is right in front of our eyes.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. We're glad and thankful to have you here. Do hit that like button and follow the channel. If it's your first time here watching the Wake Up America show and you're enjoying this content, we'd love to have you be a regular guest. Speaking of regular guests, Camilia Peterson, who's joining us live here on the show, is a regular guest on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if you like Camilia's commentary, make sure you follow her on X at Rare Camilia. You can see the spelling of her name down there underneath her lovely face. So follow her over there at x.com. And of course, come back on Tuesdays and Thursdays and hear what Camilia has to say about topics. They're not usually so dark and sullen. Usually we have a lot more fun and we goof around and we make lots of jokes. So if you like the show and you like Camilia, come back on Tuesdays and Thursdays for sure, or just, get the whole shebang and join us Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. One last thing, Camilia, we're going to have Jeremy Kaufman joining us at 8:30 a.m. He was at the Libertarian Party's national convention. He is now openly stating he is voting for Donald Trump. That's going to be a fascinating conversation, and that's 15 minutes from now. This next topic, I know I didn't prepare you for this, but this is something that, I do to you all the time anyway. It is another darker topic, and I have not, I've refrained from addressing it on this show just because it's struck me on a deeply emotional level. But I'd just like to talk to you very briefly about it because it's been huge international news, and it involves someone that we know and we care about. Your state representative and my good friend Ben Baker, who his daughter and son-in-law were killed in Haiti on a mission last week, and it's become a huge news story. They were both killed by armed gangs in Haiti. And the international community has responded with an outpouring of support. I heard that Donald Trump actually called Ben specifically, purposefully, and so did Mike Pence to offer their well wishes. This story is tragic. It makes me obviously terribly sad, but also just extremely angry that something like this could have happened, especially because of the warning signs that went down. What's your take on this story, Camilia, noting that it's a deeply personal tragedy involving someone that we know personally and is literally, that's your representative. Your take.
Yeah, Ben and Naomi are good friends too, and sorry, but I do think that the way that they have talked about Natalie and her husband Davey, the way Ben has talked about this is really, really sums up, because a lot of people say, why were they there? Why would you choose to be in a country that we know is it's out of control? Their government has dissolved, gangs have taken over, very dangerous. And I think that is something that exemplifies, their lives, in that when they believed in something so strongly and they loved the people there so much that they were willing to take that risk. And I think that, the biggest challenge in the outcome of this, and it's terrible. Like any of us who, especially I think people who have children, everybody can see that it's terrible, but I don't think it hits quite the same if you don't have children or children on the way, because you just, I don't know, you empathize with that on a totally different level. And it's unthinkable. And Natalie is the same age as my older daughter. And so just like, that's like, I can't fathom. And so, this has been something that I think has drawn attention to, in a lot of ways, the selflessness that we do need to see in people in a time where we see so much selfishness here at home. And to have the story of these two young people out there who are willing to give everything because they had such a deep love for the people of Haiti, I think is a good thing. I was very appreciative that Donald Trump honored them. Whenever one of the very first things he did when he was speaking to the Libertarian Party was he did honor them and remember them. And, as you mentioned, he did call Ben and Naomi and offered his condolences. And I do think that is, that's the upside to Trump, right? For all of his bombasticness or bombasticity, whatever, for all of that. Yes, we've seen over and over again that he does care about people, and he has this side of him that is genuinely caring and wants the best for people. And I don't think that I know a lot of people think, well, that might be a political move right now. And for all my qualms, with Trump, I don't think this is a political move. I think that he does this from his heart and because he does feel for them and wanted to reach out to them. So it is difficult. But I think that to me, one of the biggest things watching this, I don't say a lot about it online. Things that are very deeply personal to me, I often don't tweet about. I'll tweet about everything else. But so I haven't said anything much about it online. But one of the things that struck me over the last few days is I had in my feed story after story about Davy and Natalie getting killed. And then there was stories about babies being born and the joy in people's lives. And then there was Ben and Naomi out there sharing the positive stories about, how they want Natalie to be remembered. And the human capacity to have such grief and joy exist at the same time is just, I think that is, I don't know, that is deeply moving to me. And I am amazed by our human capacity to do that. And it gives me hope at a time when it seems like we're all at each other's throats all of the time. I think that we need to see that. And that gives me hope for our future.
Me too, Camilia Peterson. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners before we go?
Well, I think kind of going back to the Libertarian Party's decision and this decision, this crossroads that a lot of libertarians stand at right now as far as the choice they have to make. There have been a lot of people that were talking about, how that we libertarians are our people. Like, even if you've given up on the party, you want them to do well, because there needs to be those other options. And so even because it's good to keep the other two parties on their toes, but there are lots of people who have reached the point where they realize that the Libertarian Party, for all of the takeovers and anything else and all of the good efforts, they just failed to gain ground. They're ineffectual. Somebody mentioned earlier, I think it was Alex, said is childish, and very often it is childish behavior. Not that that's exclusive to the Libertarian Party, but there does seem to be more of it. And so, there is this move like, what is the best vehicle for liberty? And I think it's people like Rand Paul, Mike Lee, Thomas Massey, and we need more of those people in leadership, both in our states and federally in our federal government. And so I think that is it ideal? Is it the answer for everyone? Not necessarily, but I think we all have to come to, the point where we make that decision about where can we be most effective.
Yeah, they booed Mike Lee, by the way, for when he showed up on that stage. Camilia Peterson, we'll see you on Thursday. Thanks for your thoughts on this. And it sounds to me as if we're both going to end at the same place. MAGA Libertarians for Donald Trump 2024. Thanks, Camilia. We'll see you on Thursday. Have a good one.
Have a great day, everyone.
What do you guys think of Camilia Peterson? Good stuff, right? If the Wake Up America show isn't a part of your regular routine, you are missing out. You need to go and say hello and introduce yourself in the Rumble chat to our friends like Guokas, Will Run Riot, Drummer Goy, my lovely smoking hot redheaded pregnant libertarian wife Stephanie, joining us live. What's shaking? How you doing there, Steffi? You're looking kind of cute. My brother Justin Peterson, he's Peter's JJ over there, says Camilia, you're amazing. Joni Rankin, another Springfieldian there this morning, another Missourian. We do love our Missouri friends here. Dad Bod Baboon, he's become a more regular guest on the show as well. Say hi to Jack Burton, Salty Guy, Whitey White, Liberty Shindig, Shadow Collector, and all of our friends over in the Rumble chat. Introduce yourselves. The people this morning that are there in the chat are very friendly and kind. We try and foster a healthy, positive, friendly community on the Wake Up America show. Do we allow dissent or arguments and sometimes anger to burst forth on the chat? Yes, we do. But we don't allow people to mercilessly berate other people and to treat each other like crap and call each other all kinds of terrible names and try and distract people from the conversations that we want to be having in order to advance the ideas of freedom, to support the American Republic and independence, which the 4th of July is coming up very soon, my favorite holiday. The 4th of July should be a national holiday. Oh, wait, it is. I was watching some History Channel documentaries over the weekend. We watched the one on George Washington, and I had to turn off the one about Teddy Roosevelt, because History Channel, I'm pretty sure, is mostly sponsored by Bank of America, which throughout history has always, been in favor of central banking and so progressive central banking. And so when I watched the Teddy Roosevelt History Channel, I wanted to watch the story of him, going to Cuba and joining the Rough Riders and, shooting his, what's the name of those rifles that they use? I want one so bad. Oh, the Krag Jorgensens that they used to fight on San Juan Hill. But I just couldn't get past the whole History Channel shilling for the progressive policies of Teddy Roosevelt, because as you know, he was the original progressive Republican. So they're going out there, oh, he wanted to help the poor and he fought against the rich and it was the robber barons, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just like, shut up. Silence, progressive whores. Anyways, progressive just pissed me off in general, but none more so, I think, than progressive Republicans, because it's always, we're here to help the poor. It's like compassionate conservatism of today, right? It's big government, but it goes to church on Sundays. It's all it is. It's Elizabeth Warren with an R after her name, essentially. It's Bernie Sanders, but it spends more money because its people think, oh, well, if we're doing it, then that means that it's okay. So I couldn't finish the Teddy Roosevelt documentary series. I did start the Abraham Lincoln History Channel documentary series on him, which so far has been pretty darn good. We watched the George Washington, which one was terrific. I watched the General Grant, President Grant. His were absolutely terrific as well. So if you haven't seen those, I believe they're on Amazon Prime right now. So great documentaries, and the History Channel, of course, is going to make every excuse in that they can for big government. Jeremy Kaufman is a member of the Libertarian Party. He was at the convention last weekend, and he says after the candidate Chase Oliver was selected, he's voting for Donald Trump. Talk to Jeremy Kaufman about that when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. Don't go away.
The Cantina crew, this is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian, and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? You can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist! Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Glad and thankful to have you here. Hit that like button, and if you're enjoying the content that you've been hearing and seeing this morning, make sure that you click follow as well. The Wake Up America show streams live every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. And if you love the ideas of economic freedom and personal liberty, you're in the right place and you're among friends. My next guest, he's a libertarian and a big L libertarian, member of the Libertarian Party. He was at the national convention this last weekend where libertarians heard from Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump and ultimately selected libertarian Chase Oliver for their presidential candidate. I've been playing his clips all morning. We've been discussing it. Let's hear from someone who was there. Jeremy Kaufman joins us live from New Hampshire this morning. Good morning, Jeremy. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Austin. It's always great to be here, even if the circumstances for being here today are kind of mediocre.
Obviously, you can always count on the LP to do the wrong thing at the end of the day, Jeremy. But you know, you're a party guy. You were there at the convention. Start with Donald Trump first. What was your reaction to the promises that he made to libertarians? How did you feel about it?
Yeah, well, look, I'm kind of going around. I go encouraging libertarians to support Trump. That doesn't mean you got to be a 100% Trump lover. And so honestly, as a libertarian who observed Trump, I listened to that speech and I'm skeptical, not because it doesn't sound good, but because in my opinion, there are things that Trump has promised that, he's failed to do. But he's the only chance, right? The Libertarian Party was always going to lose. And they nominated someone who's not even worth supporting, right? If you're going to have a protest vote, it's got to be someone worth protesting for. So there's no libertarian candidate in the race to do that. Trump is offering libertarians things. Trump has some people in his corner like Vivek now, who I think could plausibly make things a lot better. And obviously Biden is one of the worst presidents we've had, absolutely terrible. So there's no other choice. And libertarians have some chance to get some of what they want. And I'll take some of what I want over nothing. That's an easy choice.
What's wrong with Chase Oliver?
Chase Oliver, I think I'm not going to go around saying he's not a libertarian. People can debate that. But I absolutely refuse to support a libertarian who is also an egalitarian. I mean, Chase is someone who is a bleeding heart, who is going to be on the wrong side not just of every cultural issue, but also on economic issues. American citizens are more important than people in Gaza or Ukraine or whatever else these people want to care about. You know, the open borders stance that comes from egalitarianism, the sympathy, you know, for the trans kids and some of what I would consider child abuse. Again, for better or worse, comes from this flawed worldview of egalitarianism. And so, to me, if a candidate is going to be an egalitarian, I can't support them. And so egalitarianism is basically the left-right divide. Trump is clearly the most right-wing candidate in the race. And so I'm going to support him on that axis.
How do your fellow libertarians feel about you doing this, noting that, you know, you were at the convention, you're a member of the party itself, you're openly stating that you're going to support a candidate of the other party. I can imagine that they're not saying nice things to you.
Yeah, you know, I think there's actually an incredible amount of libertarians in the party who would agree with me. I think that's why so many people in the party literally said they preferred NODA, none of the above, over Chase Oliver. So I think actually Chase Oliver, and you said this, so I'm repeating your own words. You probably said it several times this morning. Chase Oliver is the best thing that could happen for Donald Trump in terms of libertarians voting for him. I think that there are very, very few, if any, right-wing libertarians, which I absolutely am, who are going to pull we don't pull levers, who are gonna push the button for Chase Oliver. Very few. So, you know, whatever vote he gets, it's going to come from people who were either non-voters or leftists, I think. I just don't see him being able to pull very many votes from Donald Trump. And in New Hampshire, I'll tell you, everyone is with me. Every member of the New Hampshire Libertarian Party, at least I haven't met anyone who has a problem with me backing Trump. You know, no one in the New Hampshire Libertarian Party really wants to back Chase Oliver.
Got it. Jeremy, the Wake Up America show, this show that I produce, is not a libertarian show for libertarians. I consider it to be, it's a libertarian show for normies, to introduce them to libertarianism, get them hooked so that they can go and then be introduced to people like yourself and anarcho-capitalism little later down the line. The clothes taking off and Chase Oliver's can be introduced a little bit later. So this next topic I hope you don't mind, I have to set this up for people who aren't going to be aware of all of these internecine squabbles. The Mises Caucus is an institution that was founded in the Libertarian Party to help stop the leftward drift of the party after the Gary Johnson years. And that institution largely took over most of the levers of power within the party, including the chair of the Libertarian Party itself, a woman named Angela McArdle, who I think did a terrific job. Actually, she invited Donald Trump to speak, and she also RFK and Biden, who didn't appear. But the Mises Caucus floated a candidate that they hoped would be able to take the nomination by the name of Michael Rechtenwald. He's a former professor at NYU, was a lifelong Marxist before he sort of took the red pill and decided that he had more in common with libertarians than he did with the left. But the Mises Caucus failed to get Rechtenwald across the line. What happened?
Look, I think I like a lot of what the Mises Caucus did, and I think Rechtenwald is a good guy, but he was a flawed candidate. And I think the Mises Caucus needs to really self-reflect, because I think they sabotaged themselves, because they were able to get Angela reelected. A bunch of the Libertarian Party national committee, there's these committee positions that ultimately sort of run the party. But the Mises Caucus got the vast majority of those. So, you know, it wasn't like the Mises Caucus was rejected inside of the Libertarian Party, but you had some people, some sort of neutrals, who just thought that Rechtenwald was such a bad candidate that they preferred gay race communism. You know, I think that's still kind of an indictment of those people, maybe. But I think that the Mises Caucus can't act like they did nothing wrong here. And, you know, I've tried to give them some polite criticism because I appreciate what they've done. I think they're good people. But if they're going to go around and say that this was other people's fault and not theirs, I think that's wrong. I think they've got to look at themselves and realize that they've made some mistakes. And I think, you know, something the Mises Caucus did, which I mostly commend, is they've gotten much better at playing power politics. They're saying, hey, this is how it really works. they've gotten less idealistic about persuasion. That's good. But you can't throw away persuasion. You can't only play power politics, because you create you end up with people having false preferences. If you create a culture in which people can't be honest, and you say, well, to be in this caucus, you have to believe this thing, but the thing you're pushing, you're not trying to persuade people of. You get a lot of people who secretly don't agree with you. And if the culture becomes too totalitarian around disagreement, they're obviously not totalitarians, but I mean, no room for dissent. That's not a good thing. You've got to have persuasion and power politics have both got to be in the mix.
Was it the same problem with their vice presidential pick? Because there was a battle on the floor and a deal that was done ultimately to offer the third place vote getter, Mike Termott, a former cop, the vice presidential pick, which is ultimately what put Chase Oliver over the line. Was it just the Mike Termott scenario that stopped the Mises Caucus's vice presidential pick, or was it a similar situation with Rechtenwald? What was that situation?
So I think it was Termott was a big part of it. Termott's story, which I'm not sure I agree with. I don't know where he was. I can't say was it going on in his own head. He was supposed to have been something of a never chaser. He says that seeing Rechtenwald stumble on stage on Saturday night made him feel that he couldn't support Rechtenwald either, and he went to Chase being better. And look, it was indefensible. I mean, quite frankly, like. If a proper libertarian should be able to take any amount of drugs and get on stage and criticize Donald Trump. I mean, if they're literally conscious, they could be on DMT, staring at the machine elves themselves and still be able to criticize. I'm joking here a little bit. I'm not. There are plenty of. I'm completely sober libertarians. You don't have to do drugs to be a libertarian. But this idea that it's ridiculous. It was an embarrassment. It was for me. It was a disqualifying event. I can't support someone and I'm not. I don't think he's a bad guy. I'm glad, and I also don't like criticizing the guys in the arena. Like they're doing the work. So I'm not saying he shouldn't have ran or whatever. I'm glad he did. I hope he continues to be dedicated to the cause of liberty. But there's some specific skills required if you want to be a candidate, and he was lacking in some of them, and it's crazy to say that otherwise.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm speaking to Jeremy Kaufman. He's a member of the Libertarian Party and the Free State Project in New Hampshire, which is fighting for liberty on the state level there, and they're winning a lot of victories. Jeremy, the presidential race is between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Do you think that libertarians could get Donald Trump across the finish line? And if so, could we hold him to his promises?
First question, yes. Second question, maybe. But given the choices, I think you still take that deal. And yeah, look, this is the other thing. I'm in New Hampshire. I actually care not so much about the national political picture. There's a really diehard libertarian movement in New Hampshire of Rothbardian ANCAPs, anarcho-capitalists. These are like the most committed of libertarians. We have a guy as libertarian as Ron Paul, who's our House Majority Leader. We have 100 libertarians who are more libertarian than Gary Johnson, who are elected to the state legislature. So it feels like we're winning here. It feels like libertarians have a real way to win, which is we can concentrate in one area. We can take over an entire state government and potentially secede at some point. That's a question. That last part's a bit of a question, but we already have the most libertarian state in the country, in accordance with every sort of third-party rating of this kind of thing. And the momentum is only growing here. If you plotted how many election wins we've had, it's gone up every 2 years, basically, for 20 years running. It started with like 3, and we're at 100. And so there's really something happening here that I think a lot of libertarians in the country need to come and experience and check out. I'm not saying you have to move, but you got to come and check it out because there's something happening here that's unlike the rest of the world. And PorcFest is coming up next month. It's a great festival to come out to for a first-time visitor.
Yeah, they offered to invite me. I wanted to go so bad, but that's right when my child's about to be born. But it's definitely a lot of fun. I was there about a dozen years ago. It's an Anarchy Fest out in the woods of New Hampshire. It's a lot of fun. So if you get a chance to go, definitely do it. You get to meet a lot of interesting characters. Last question here, Jeremy, circling back around. My DMs are full of people who are asking me what to do. I'm kind of like the lifeboat from the libertarians who are disaffected over to the Republican Party to try and support changing the Republican Party towards a more liberty focused party, and trying now, what I would say, to build a Libertarian-MAGA alliance, noting that there are distinct differences between these groups. But if we can accomplish some gains for libertarianism, then, I'll take the slings and arrows from the purists who will call me a neocon or a statist or whatever, a warmonger. As long as we can do things like free Ross Ulbricht, get a libertarian in the cabinet, possibly free Julian Assange and other things, then I think that those matter a hell of a lot more than just who's the most libertarian. But all these people who are asking me these questions, I'm imagining that they're probably doing the same to you, Jeremy. They're saying, should I vote for Trump? Why should I vote for Trump? And without using words like egalitarian, big words, like, what do you think really is the best pitch for why people who are like you and I, who believe in a radical decentralization, who believe in a complete and total 180 from where our government has gone to today to now, how would you explain it to people in the most basic terms possible of why people who are like you and I, who believe in radically limiting government, why we should vote for Donald Trump? How would you state that?
Well, I'll give you two things. So one is, something is better than nothing. All right, another 4 years of Biden would be the worst thing in the world. The libertarian candidate can't win, and you have some chance of getting some things from Trump. Like, it's clearly better. Is Trump going to usher in libertarian utopia? No, he is not, but it's clearly better. That's one. And then two, for the people who kind of ask, well, what's different? And I think this is a very good question, because I wasn't a huge fan. I voted for Trump in 2020, despite not being a huge fan of the last 4 years, but I still couldn't support Joe, and I thought he was better than the other options. Now we have Vivek in the mix, who is one of the guys who's become the closest to Trump. And there is not a person in the country who I think has smarter and better ideas about how to dismantle and shrink the government from the inside. And so if Vivek is in that inner circle and Trump is willing to let him run a little bit, I think what could happen is incredible. Because Trump's not he's not a man. He's a great PR guy. He's got incredible energy. I would love Trump staring down any world leader. I think he's incredible at doing that. There's very few people I would prefer. I actually can't think of anyone I would rather have in those kinds of situations than Trump. He's a 99.99th percentile negotiator. I didn't have enough nines there. He didn't understand how to dismantle the government on the inside. It's too many details. It's not his thing. Having someone like Vivek, who incredibly sharp, who gets it, who has ideas that no one else has had about how to shrink the administrative state, that's a game changer. And so certainly that's one of the biggest reasons that I'm enthusiastic about supporting Trump this year.
Jeremy, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners, or maybe even plug before we let you go today?
You can follow me on X at Jeremy Kaufman. I'm very active there. I have around 50,000 followers. And come visit New Hampshire sometime. DM me, reach out to me. I'd love to help you have a great trip and learn more about New Hampshire.
Jeremy, you've got huge guts, and thank you for being so generous with your time this morning. We appreciate your take on things. Have a wonderful day, and good luck in New Hampshire.
Cheers.
Thank you. What do you all think of Jeremy Kaufman? Can we get a round of applause? You aren't going to get interviews like that anywhere else in the world. It's only on the Wake Up America show. For those who are joining us live today, make sure that you click that like button on the feed if you're enjoying that content, the follow button as well. Many of you who are joining the Wake Up America show regularly know how hard we work to put out the absolute best 2 hours of content that you get in the mornings. The best clips, the best interviews, the best regular guests. Only here on the Wake Up America show are you going to hear these kinds of conversations. So that's why if you click the follow button and you like the feed, you're helping to support more content like the one that you're hearing this morning. So like, follow, and make sure that you join us regularly every Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. And of course, you can also hear the Wake Up America show's audio version by downloading it on any of your mobile devices from any of your favorite apps. So it's been a great conversation today about Donald Trump speaking to the Libertarian Party, about who the Libertarian Party chose for their presidential candidate, why it happened. We've gone through the ins and outs and the ups and downs. So I guess the question is now, will you vote for Donald Trump? Will you vote for the Libertarian candidate? Or will many of you vote for none of the above? And for those of you who are thinking about voting for Joe Biden, well,
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
thank you, Norm. Speaking of commie gobbledygook, we've got our Norm Macdonald commie gobbledygooks t-shirts over at apforlibertyshop.com. There you are. That's my website, apforlibertyshop.com. It's a freedom lovers bazaar. Check it out at apforlibertyshop.com. That Norm Macdonald.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
You can get it at apforlibertyshop.com. No offense, but it sounds like some effing commie gobbledygook.
How dare you?
All kinds of fun, funny, and outrageous Liberty tees, as well as other merchandise over at apforlibertyshop.com. Oh, and while we're at it, just an FYI, while you're at apforlibertyshop.com this morning, doing a little shopping, maybe you're buying some of our coffee, or perhaps you're into our Libertarians for Trump merchandise, which just dropped today. If you're into that thing, if you're into that kind of thing, then also check out at 9:05 a.m. Central my lovely, smoking hot, pregnant, redheaded libertarian wifey Stephanie for Steffi P for Liberty has got a brand new video coming out at 9:05 a.m. Central Time today. Yes. Now here's the thing. It's a live feed. Steffi will be there. I will be there. The gang will be all there. So if the show is over today at 9 a.m. and you're like, and you still want to hang out with Austin and Steffi, you can do so by heading over to apforlibertyshop.com. You can see her new video, click to watch, which will take you over to the premiere, which is premiering here, as you can see, in 15 minutes. Steffi talks about exercising while you're pregnant. And she talks a little bit about doing her exercises and some of the health outcomes that you can have if you exercise while you're pregnant. So Steffi has got a really nice little short video. It's only like 4 or 5 minutes long. Won't take too long. The new video premieres this morning at 9:05 a.m. Central Time. And here's the deal. If you're a member of our Locals group, and I know that we weren't able to stream the show today on Locals because I've been working on a new streaming system behind the scenes for a couple of weeks, and I haven't been able to get it to work exactly just yet. I'm trying to use Rumble Studio. But because I wasn't able to get it to work this morning, I had some problems, and so I couldn't get the stream up on Locals. Sorry about that. However, we do have a Locals community, and just so you know, you get exclusive content at our Locals community. So whenever Steffi releases her new hustling and homemaking videos, if you're fans of them and you want to see them before anybody else, we always upload them a day early over at our Locals community. So if you're watching us, for example, on Rumble this morning, you can see the Wake Up America Show's Locals community right underneath the video feed. Click on that over there. Join us over there so you can get that exclusive content, see our stuff early before anybody else. Stephanie's hustling and homemaking videos come out before anybody else. However, if you're not into that, Stephanie's video will premiere here in about, well, what does it say? It says it will premiere in now 13 minutes. So I've been talking for 12. So head on over to apforlibertyshop.com. Grab yourself some Libertarians for Trump gear. We've got a 4th of July collection going on. Check out that I'm Just Here to Bang shirts. Very funny. Where else are you going to find Gadsden flag earrings, ladies? Bomb pops. These sell like crazy. Most of these designs that you see for things like these 1776 shoes and these American flag swim trunks are designed by me and Steffi. So, like I'm Just Here to Bang. The 4th of July collection. And we sell a lot of these Ron Swanson shirts. History began on July 4th, 1776. Everything before that was a mistake. Thank you, Ron. What's George Washington smoking over there? He's got something there. You can get our Smoking George coin necklace, men's Star-Spangled Sneaks, shoe off your patriotism. Very funny. Colonial Star 1776 pillow covers, Statue of Liberty gun shirts, 4th of July fireworks director, If I Run, You Will Run, all kinds of great merch. Thomas Jefferson face palming. Very funny. Calvin Coolidge merch. This is the kind of stuff, again, that you don't get anywhere else. And of course, our Appeal to Heaven flags. People have been buying those like crazy because they've been triggering leftists. Leftists are saying this is a Christo-fascist, white supremacy, seditionist flag. It's just a patriotic American revolutionary flag that happened to be flying above Justice Alito's house when he was deliberating on a lot of the January 6th stuff. So the left is freaking out over it, which means that it's good. Get an Appeal to Heaven flag at apforlibertyshop.com. While you're over there checking out Steffi's latest hustling and homemaking video, if you haven't visited apforlibertyshop.com, what's wrong with you? What is that noise? What does that sound? Well, for the first timers here, that sound means that it's time for us to go. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for watching. I guess we're going to see you guys over on the hustling and homemaking video, right? We'll see you at 9:05. Cool. Good. All right, I'm going to go over to AP for Liberty Shop while it's over. Maybe get me a couple boxes of coffee. I'm almost running out anyway. Click that follow button before you leave. Join our locals community. It's time for you to get closer and closer to the AP for Liberty family. Me, my smoking hot redheaded libertarian wife, Steffi, our soon-to-be-born baby P for Liberty, whole freedom-loving family here on the Wake Up America show. We want you to be a part of it. We'll see you guys here tomorrow on the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Expanse of time, a year might seem like a mere moment, but oh, what a year it's been. In September 2022, Austin and Stephanie Peterson embarked on a journey to wake up America. They began humbly, with just 20 souls tuning in, learning, listening, and though challenges arose, like the looming shadow of YouTube demonetization, their spirit never waned. And now, thanks to you, thousands rise with the sun to join them, to listen, to engage, to be a part of a community. So here's to you, and to Wake Up America, for memories shared, for friends made, for the journey ahead, and for never, ever forgetting to rise and freedom. Happy anniversary.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Is the outdoor your home about as exciting as a library? Then spice it up and unbore your space with our custom metal signs. Crafted with love and a bit of libertarian magic, you can customize your own metal sign at apforlibertyshop.com. So head to apforlibertyshop.com, customize your own metal sign today.
Welcome to a world of vocal discovery at Peterson Voice Studio. I'm Justin Peterson, here to guide your musical journey. Envision a place where your voice reaches new heights, where every note tells a story. We embrace all singers, from the enthusiastic shower vocalists to aspiring stars, ensuring each voice finds its unique rhythm and tone. Are you ready to elevate your voice? Visit petersonvoicestudio.com and sign up for remote lessons tailored just for you. Let's begin this melodious journey together.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's revolutionary roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's patriotic perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks, just pure patriotic pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your Founding Flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.